Oh, howdy all, grab yourself a drink, it is time for some PathOfExile discussion. Welcome to day 10 of Teaser season for patch 3.24 and the upcoming Necropolis expansion. Today there was one piece of general news that is not 3.24 related, and a few things related to 3.24 that are going to be a bit better received than yesterday's debacle. So, the first piece of news that is not 3.24 related but is about the general game is just that some MTX bundles are going off sale soon. I'll put a link down in the description below to Grinding Gear Games' announcement of that. But with that out of the way, let's get on to the main news about the way the game is changing in 3.24, and this is going to be access to a number of particular endgame boss encounters. One of the more popular requests from solo self-found players for a while has been a way to mitigate bad luck with the Shaper's Fragments and the Elder's Fragments. When you defeat the Shaper, you will have a 50% chance of getting a Fragment of Knowledge, 50% chance of getting a Fragment of Shape. When you defeat the Elder, it's the same except you'll get Emptiness or Terror. However, there's no biasing of this towards getting you an equal number of each, and you can only use these in equal numbers, because they're used as the entry key to the Uber Elder encounter, but it requires a full set of 4 of them. So what's changing in patch 3.24 is that you can deterministically, for a cost of 800 Harvest Yellow Juice, turn a Fragment of Shape into a Fragment of Knowledge and vice versa, and you can do the same with Emptiness and Terror ones. Note that you can't turn ones that are sourced from the Shaper into ones that are sourced from the Elder, nor can you do the reverse. This is only for Shaper to Shaper or Elder to Elder fragments. In Trade League, this is completely cost prohibitive. You should never use this in Trade League, but in solo self-found, it is definitely something that people will use extensively. The other change that's happening is something that is mostly upside, but does have a couple of corner case negatives to it, and that is the way that you access Maven's invitations. When I'm talking about invitations here, I'm talking about the Maven 10-way fight, the Maven's invitation, the Formed, the Twisted, the Hidden, the Feared, the Elder Slayers, and the 6th one that for some reason I can never seem to remember. These are going to no longer be itemized invitations that you can trade to other players. Instead, they're going to come up as something that is account bound and that Kirak provides you the instant you're flagged for them. So 3.23 status quo is that it's about a 15% chance to get Maven's invitation, the Formed, whenever you kill a Shaper Guardian, and that chance can be increased slightly with these nodes towards the north end of the tree that are going to undoubtedly need a rework in patch 3.24 because they're no longer going to do anything. So that's the 3.23 status quo. The 3.24 setup is that instead, you're just simply always going to get these when you've Maven witnessed all of the prerequisite encounters. Now let's start with the 2 corner cases where this is actually a significant nerf, albeit not a significant nerf to popular things, and that is Influence Scouting Reports and Otherworldly Scouting Reports. These provide you with access to one of the Atlas mini-bosses, but without any way to have them Maven witnessed, and as a result, their main appeal in patch 3.23 is that you can get one of these invitations as a roughly 15% drop rate reward from when you complete them. That's going away, and as a result, these scouting reports are going to get even worse. And this is a much bigger impact on the Influence Scouting Reports, where those are a bigger percentage of the loot than it is on the Otherworldly Scouting Reports, where those invitations are more of an afterthought. But they weren't particularly popular anyway, so that's not going to have a big impact on the way the game is played. The other thing that's going to be noticeably worse with this is using Conqueror Influence as a way to just juice up a map. So that's going to be worse because you generally did that alongside an Eater of Worlds aligned Atlas, and using these nodes that give you additional pack size of the Conqueror added packs, and then using that as a way to farm divination cards. Those strategies are getting worse, but for most players, this is going to be a buff. Overall, this package of changes makes destructive play better than it's been in the past, and destructive play was already a pretty good choice, and I think it'll be something that most players will like. One last thing that's very important. If you happen to brick an invitation, and what I mean by brick here is that applying a Vaal Orb to it results in map mods that you consider completely unbeatable for all of your characters. For example, maybe it rolls Elemental Reflect and you've only got one character in the league and they can't do Ele Reflect, or maybe it simultaneously rolls no regen and also no leech, and your character is unable to recover life by any means other than regen and or leech. In that situation, in 3.23, you could simply sell that invitation to someone else that could beat it. Maybe you'd take a small haircut in the amount that you could sell it for, but someone would definitely buy it. In 3.24, that's not going to be an option, and so you probably don't want to Vaal invitations in most situations. Finally, there's a few mods on Valdo Maps that caused maps to be sometimes replaced by Maven invitations. These are instead going to be replaced by Scarabs, which is mostly going to be a nerf. All in all, although there's a couple of corner cases where this is worse than 3.23, and I have emphasized those a lot in this video, this is generally going to be a well-received change, and it's going to be something that most players are going to prefer to the status quo. I'm going to leave it there. May your Vaal Orbs have interesting results, and I'll put a link to yesterday's video in the description below and on the bottom left corner of the screen now.